I've been to breweries where I feel like I taste really well-made beer, and it does not excite me. That's a great Belgian triple. I never have to have it again. There's no character. There's no life. It's not a scientific endeavor, and I don't think it ever should be. From my very first batch, I think we considered it an art form.
As far as any artistic expression that I could have personally, never anything like excited me. Coming up with a recipe for beer that hasn't been tried in this way or with this twist on it excited me, and it kind of like got me a new passion of what to do with my life, and to be able to formulate something that just comes from grains, hops, yeast, and then whatever else we want to throw into it, but making it work in a way that is delicious and not just a fun thing to do as a hobby, but to be able to present that to people. And a lot of artists don't even get that. You know, they make paintings. It's hard to sell paintings sometimes. For a $5 beer, it's pretty nice.
There's some famous monk who says it's impossible to make good beer with details. Always take that. Granted, they probably have a more technical program than I do, or most people. You definitely have people who view it almost entirely scientifically. You have people who view it probably almost entirely artistically. And both have their merits, so there's definitely room for being both. Somebody who's just brewing by the numbers and just doing it and not really paying attention, almost formulating recipes mechanically. They have to be influenced and inspired. Otherwise, it will just be another beer. I think that kind of sums it up, actually. It's not about being super technical and super knowledgeable. It's just, that's a support structure for being creative. You want to take a sip and go, there's a whole lot of beautiful things going on that are interplaying very well. And it's hard. It's hard to do that, but when you get it right, it's very hard to find something that rewarding.
Every single one.
And it actually makes you feel better when you drink it.
Beer is that worldwide staple. It has been around basically since the beginning. Its origins can be traced back through written history from ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia to the brewing goddess, Ninkasi. Yet things change, cultures shift, and the corn-based brews of yesteryear are nothing like today. But nonetheless, it has helped to shape the culture of craft beer. American craft was heavily influenced by European travel. Introduced to four-ingredient lagers, it was a beverage that was easy to produce, simpler to ship, and easy on the palate. Before 1920, there were over 1,300 breweries across America, and roughly 100 million in population. That would have meant each brewery would have serviced around 76,000 people, assuming all 100 million drank. But there's a dark side to every story. Prohibition. When Prohibition hit, it forced them to either close their doors or innovate. Anheuser-Busch made non-alcoholic drinks like soda, in addition to ice cream and even truck bodies. Coors manufactured porcelain, as well as produced malted milk for candy companies. Pabst Blue Ribbon made cheese. and even got into the malt extract business, advertising themselves as a cooking product. It's not beer yet, right? Needless to say, breweries had to be creative if they wanted to survive.
I was always thinking ahead and being like, well, what do I really want to do with my life? What can I do to make a difference in this world? I had gone to school to become a youth pastor, and then I moved out to California to go to seminary and grad school. I was working full-time as an electrician, but it's not what I wanted to do. Wanting to become a pastor, influence people's lives, then it was kind of more like, I don't want to be in a structured religious institution, so maybe I'll become a cop and influence the community that way. I was actually pursuing the police academy and trying to become a police officer, and Scott was a gardener at university. And then we started brewing beer, and it started making sense, and we started to do some fun, funky stuff with what we were brewing. One day, Scott and I, we were just thinking, we just don't want to make beer to make beer's sake. You know, we want to make a difference in the community we're in. When we started talking about it, we decided like, hey, this could be a possible future business opportunity. If we move into Pomona and start a brewery there, it's going to be a community type place. It's going to be a place that we want the community to come visit, people that live down the street, people, you know, that live down the road, just come and have a place for the residents of Pomona to come and enjoy life together. It was at that moment pretty much when I was denied access to the police department. In Pomona, actually, it's where our brewery is at. It kind of started to click for myself. I can make a difference by making great beer that excites people, brings people together as a community, and can change the community in that way. It seems kind of weird that I'm gonna make a difference with beer and getting people drinking beer, not drunk necessarily, but yeah, just bringing people together, I guess, through a common enjoyment factor thing.
Wait, there's filter right here. Oh, and it's fresh. Look at that. Good eye, Jason.
I think the pivotal point was me getting that denial letter from the city of Pomona and them saying, sorry, you'll have to start the process over again. And that was 18 months of my life interviewing, background checks and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, oh, no, you're denied, but you can try again in 6 months if you want. At that point, it was just like exhausting. And then we were pretty much just like, you know what? Now's the time if we're gonna do anything. I reached out to my dad and just said, hey, Dad, if you could give anything, and I'm thinking $1,000, $2,000, you know, like whatever you want to give so that we can get this ball rolling. But he reached out, gave a pretty decent, substantial investment, and we just started renting this place like a week later. As soon as that day hit, as soon as that all clicked together, it all came together. And we walked in this location we're in today, the day after we got our investment. It just kind of all clicked and we're like, let's do this. And it was serious business from then on out, I guess.
But I will say this also as a caveat. We did not look at any other units besides this one for opening. We didn't look anywhere else. And that's a mistake. I will say that. I love this building. I seriously think it's amazing. But man, you know, what if we just found another building that also had charm and foot traffic? You know, versus being at the end of a neighborhood off of a main road where nobody can see you from anywhere, you know? So that I would say is something that I don't necessarily regret, but again, it really makes you scratch your head and go like, what if we did open in a business park, like we had more parking? I think, you know, it definitely would have made our tasting room more profitable, if nothing else. And I don't know that that's a bad thing or a good thing.
Scott and I started home brewing together and just making beer for fun. I wish we like marked a date. So we've been brewing like 5 or 6 years as home brewers. And then, excuse me.
I still remember taking off the lid of the carboy and just smelling beer. You know, a delicious Belgian smell. And I just remember going like,
amazing.
We made a beer, you know?
It is sweet.
It smells delicious. It doesn't smell bad in any way. It smells like a delicious, drinkable beer. And I think that was definitely something clicked there where it was like, hey, we're, you know, like, we don't suck, you know? At least there's that.
All of them are good.
We were brewing our first few batches, sharing it with friends and sharing it with family. So we'd get together, brew some beer, and then we just started talking. And Scott and I were just like, we're going nowhere in life, so let's start a brewery, I guess.
Rationing of America's grain supply was of high priority during World War I. In return, helping to push the country into Prohibition much faster. The argument being that barley could be better served as bread to go to the soldiers. Extra use of manpower, grain, fuel, and cargo space focused on alcohol could be better served elsewhere, which never really ended up happening. On January 17, 1920, the 18th Amendment outlawed the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors. Possibly because they were drinking, no one was completely sure what that meant. So the Volstead Act, or the National Prohibition Act, was set in place to enforce the 18th Amendment and to define intoxicating liquors as any beverage containing more than 0.5% alcohol by volume, and superseded all existing prohibition laws in effect in states that had such legislation. And American bootlegging began. As bootlegging continued and organized crime grew, Prohibition began to lose its power and social acceptance of alcohol increased. The 21st Amendment was ratified December 5, 1933. It repealed the 18th Amendment and voided the Volstead Act, returning control of alcohol to the states. Even after the Prohibition ended, it was still illegal to homebrew anything over an ABV of 0.05%, which is pretty close to just flavored water. Enter President Jimmy Carter, who signed the bill H.R. 1337 that allowed anyone to produce wine or beer for personal and family use. Then, homebrewing exploded in popularity. Now available to them were supplies, equipment, ingredients, and education that didn't exist before. The real explosion, though, is that in 1980, there were only a handful of craft breweries. Now, there are thousands.
The first beer we ever brewed was Deus Volt, which is our Belgian double. That was the first beer that we ever made. We bottled it up, gave it to some friends, and everyone said they liked it, and we were like, oh, of course they're gonna say they like it. They're our friends. We gave it to some strangers, and they also liked it. And it was actually our first commercially awarded beer at a competition. So we got a bronze medal in the Belgian category. So we were like, oh, maybe we're onto something here. The beer culture in Pomona, specifically the city which we have called home, is, I guess I'll just say, on the rise. When we moved in here, there's one other bar in the area. It's a gastropub called the Rookery. They've tried to get the culture of craft beer going in this city of Pomona, and they've done a great job.
I'm reluctant to say that we started the craft beer scene in Pomona. The craft beer scene was alive. I wouldn't say alive and well, but it was alive.
So it's starting to pick up, and people are starting to recognize. Now there's 4 breweries in Pomona alone. In a city of over 150,000 people, which is pretty big.
We used to be a barbecue restaurant called Joey's Barbecue. At the time, Your big distro companies had their hands on some craft beer, and that would be, specifically like Sierra Nevada, Pete's Wicked Ale, Sam Adams, of course, being another one. And those are craft, and they're still craft. They're at least considered that. So, yeah, off the top of my head, I guess I can't really think of everything else. Like, but either way, what we did though is strike on something that no one else in town really had.
When we moved in here, we'd have people come in every day and they'd just be like, well, what do you got that's like a Blue Moon? What do you got that's like a Miller Lite? What do you got that's like a Corona? Just give me your highest ABV beer, bro.
Some people that just wanted to get drunk faster, and one of the aspects of craft beer is higher ABV. Some guy would be like, you can drink a triple IPA, and it's like drinking 3 IPAs in one. Well, no, the math's off, but I see where you're going with that.
All right, there are easier ways to get drunk than beer, right?
One of the coolest stories about what we've done here is like you have the same people complaining about why we didn't have Coors Light, or the same people asking, oh, what barrel-aged saisons do you guys have on tap? And we're like, that's rad. Thank you for growing with us. We felt that we had a really good opportunity to not only push our agenda of craft beer, but guide it and direct it, because no one was really doing that around here.
So we've seen that demographic change a lot. And a lot of the people just started to recognize, like, I want to drink something that tastes good, not just something that gets me drunk. My family wasn't into craft beer before I started home brewing and making craft beer. My dad still drank whatever cheapest stuff he could get off the shelf. But now as I brew, I try to share that with my family as much as possible, and then they get more into it. Essentially, like preaching about it and being like, you know what, this is something cool, this is something good. When I go to a bar in my hometown back in Kentucky or back up in Canada, I'm gonna try my local craft brewery, because maybe they're doing something different than what I can get off the shelf from anywhere. Culturally, ethnically, agically, if that's a word, I don't think there's a more diverse industry than the craft beer community. It doesn't matter if you're 21, white, or if you're 67, African American, or 45, Hispanic. You can all come together over this beverage and go, this is a damn good beer, isn't it? Let's hang out and drink over it.
It is pretty weird. I've been in the restaurant industry for a long time, and that is certainly new. That is not a normal thing.
You find your common ground with a lot of people on, A, we're both at a brewery, and then usually like one of the first questions are, when was your first craft beer? And the conversations that are had, and everyone just seems to find some neutral ground to be able to talk about.
Our crowd when we were Joey's was generally white. And what I noticed with craft beer is that it's one of the very few movements I've come across in my life that nobody cares what you are, where you're from. It doesn't matter. You just come in, everyone's nice to each other. And that's the best thing I think I can say about the community in general. It's nice when you just see friendships spark up out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden, these people are coming in together, and you would never think they'd ever hang out at all. It's very, very cool.
In the ideal situation, someone's going to sit down, smell it, swish it around in their glass, kind of get the aroma out of it, take a sip and enjoy it, and then carry on with conversation. That's ideal, and that happens most of the time. People come in to our tasting room and they'll sit down with friends, enjoy a beer, maybe 2, and then head out the door. So it's very few and far between that I actually see someone just like, oh, swear, this is 10%, man. Like, I'm just gonna slam 3 of these, All we're doing really as brewers is producing sugar water, and that's what we do. We put a bunch of malt.
We mix barley and water.
Hot water, we add some hops, we add some weird ingredients sometimes.
Boil it.
Put it in the fermenter.
And ferment it.
That's where you add your yeast.
We'll probably get beer out of the other side.
But at the end of our day, it's just sugar water.
There's so many things in between about doing this on this scale.
And we have had issues before.
When they're 25 to 50 times the scale you're used to working with, it's a different world. There's all this information that we might be missing. And that happened with business, that happened with running customer service, that has to do with brewing, with just every aspect.
Imagine you have a business and you have no one that knows what they're doing about anything business related, and then you throw someone into the mix.
I want to fail, even if it fails, I just want to try it.
You learn real quick what you're bad at, what you need help with, and we need to help with quite a bit. We feel like we had something dynamic and something good to start it with, and we can't ever forget that. But on the other hand, you have to be realistic about what you're not good at, what you can't do, and what you need help with. And I feel like those were the things you don't necessarily know intuitively. You have to learn that by experience. How many beers do we have left of a given brand? Are they carbonated? Are they ready to serve? Are they in the right spot in the physical location of the cold room? Are they old? Are they new? Do they need more time in the keg? Have they been too long in the kegs? There's some stuff we should get ready to pull.
You can't just say, oh, I'm really good at cooking at home, I'm gonna open a restaurant. Or I make this really good home brew, I'm gonna open a brewery. That doesn't work. And even if you make a stellar, weird beer that no one else can make at home, it doesn't translate into a business model. If you have 20 people come through, is there gonna be enough beer for everybody?
It's a beast to get open every day, and that's why we hired employees.